me. What is up, Gear Squad? Chain Gear here, bringing you another video. And today, it's likely going to be a long one, but we're going to try to make sure we don't make things like an hour or 2 hours, but you never know. I'm not here by myself. I'm here with the loyal, the consistent Gil Trosty Map Pack. Gil, thank you so much for being here, man.
You know, no problem, man. This is a momentous occasion.
Bro, this is huge. This is huge. Me and Gil played a game this year, 2023. It's December. He beat it a while ago. I beat it just recently. Final Fantasy XVI. This is a divisive game for sure. There are some people who hate this game. Most of them are like hardcore OG Final Fantasy fans. There are people who love this game. A lot of those people are either just action game fans or Devil May Cry fans. But me and Gil have thoughts on this game. I wanted to make a video and talk about it. There's also been news about this game. So because of the news, I kind of wanted to talk about this as well. And I wanted to start with just talking about our general rating for the game, maybe like a 0 to 10 scale, and general thoughts, just very general thoughts. So the way I see this video going is general rating and thoughts. I want to go into the news a little bit after our general rating and thoughts, because I think the news is is kind of important, and then go into a little bit more in depth. This is going to be spoilery once we get to those. This is what we would have liked to see. This is what we really liked about it, etc. So I'm going to kick it off with Gil. And Gil, tell me, Final Fantasy XVI. This is your second Final Fantasy game. Is that correct? Is that accurate?
Yes.
Second Final Fantasy game. You've played 7 Remake, which is personally, it's one of my favorite games of all time. So tell me, what do you rate this game? What do you rate this game? And give me your general thoughts on why you're rating it this rating.
So are we talking like on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay. So I would give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay. All right.
Critically. I think the story alone in this game boosts it to a high level.
Yeah.
But the combat and the boss fights and the music also elevated a few points for me. The points that detract from it, I think I have a full list of those things.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure.
We'll get to that. But that's 8 out of 10. Yeah.
8 out of 10. All right. I like it. Yeah, I think for me, I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. I didn't at first. I had an 8, and then I was like, could I give it any more points? It's not a 9, and then I was like, okay, 0.5. I kind of came to that by also saying, okay, the music, the story, and the general action, 10 out of 10. Oh my god, so good, all of it amazing. But the gameplay cycle, the RPG elements, the performance as in the way it runs. Reminder, this is a PlayStation 5, I believe. PlayStation 5, I don't think it's on 4, game only. This isn't on PC. It's not on Xbox. It's not on Nintendo Switch. It only runs on one console, one device. And its performance is rough. So I said, okay, the music, story, the action, 10 out of 10. But all those kind of detractors those things are like a 7 out of 10. I think that's where we kind of get this 8.5, is kind of just bringing those together and saying, all right, where are we? And it's really not a 9. It's really not. But I think 8 is accurate. I think if someone says it's a 9, if someone says it's an 8, like Gil, I totally see where they're coming from. 10 out of 10, that's a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I think to Gil's point is he said, from a critical perspective, when we're really digging deep, you only do that when you love a game. So I love this game. I truly love it. I think it's amazing. I think everyone who's a Final Fantasy fan or a fantasy fan in general should play it. I think it's a big deal. But at the end of the day, when I love something, I'm going to be pretty critical for it. When it's a piece of content like this, and I really, really do enjoy it. So I think obviously now that we've kind of gotten these out of the way, Gil and I love this game. It's amazing. Everybody should go play it. But I wanted to give two pieces of news first. News number one. There are two pieces of DLC coming out to this beloved game. The first one is already out. I believe you can get both DLCs for $25. And I think I just bought those. The first one you'll get day of because it's already out. The second one is coming out in 2024. I don't think we have a month for that yet, do we?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think we have one. I believe earlier than later, so probably the first half of the year, then the second half of the year. Do note that the first DLC costs $10, whereas the second one we don't know. Assumption is that it's going to be $20, only because it's $25. Or not? Sorry, not. Yeah. $20 only because there's got to be some sort of saving with, buying a season pass or something like that. So, if you really like this game, highly recommend grabbing it now. That way you can save yourself a little bit of money. Or if you're not sure if you're going to like it or whatever, just play the base game and kind of go from there. But that's number one. The news, which is pretty great. Gil, you've been playing the first DLC. Did you beat it or?
Not beaten it yet. I've been working these past couple days, but I have a 3-day weekend this weekend, so I'm hoping to beat it then.
Yeah, we're actually up pretty early. It's like, for me, I woke up at like 5:30 today. I've got all day to pretty much play this DLC, which I am very excited about. I know Gil's, like you said, been playing through it. But work and life and stuff gets in the way, but we're going to be going through it, and we'll likely do a follow-up video about that DLC if it's substantial enough, or we'll wait for the second DLC to come out and kind of give like a ultimate thoughts on it. But that's news number one. Wanted folks to know that because that is probably going to change some people's thoughts about the game as a whole. The next thing that I wanted to mention though, is that this is likely the only thing that we will be getting from this game. If you didn't hear the news, basically Creative Business Unit 3, which are the developers of this game, they are completely disbanded. Yes. I just read this last night. So that development team, which is part of Square Enix proper, they are officially gone. That team no longer exists. They already did the DLC. I believe a handful of folks are like finishing up the final DLC. But that's it. No more Creative Business Unit 3. This is a weird situation because we don't really know what this means. The most likely thing is that we just won't get any new Final Fantasy 16 content. That probably means no Final Fantasy 16 2, as we've seen in some other Final Fantasy games where you have, if you didn't know, Final Fantasy, none of the games are related unless they have like a -2 or -3 or something like that. And there's only a handful of games that do that at all. And so, usually it'll say like, or Final Fantasy 7 is a good example where if it's part of Final Fantasy 7, then it'll say Final Fantasy 7 Crisis Core or Final Fantasy 7, and then whatever the new thing is, Ever Crisis, whatever it is. We likely won't see something like that. And this is probably the only DLC that we get. We've also known that this DLC wasn't going to come out. This DLC came out because of not only critical success but commercial success. This game did very, very well. So. Basically, the development team said, hey, let's do some more. But I kind of wanted to put that news out there as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is a bad thing, by the way. I do just want to be clear about that it is possible that, because of this, we're not really losing out on anything. It could be that they're folding into a new team. It could be that they're creating a new team. It could be that they're saying, hey, we're going to work on, this other new, or maybe the next Final Fantasy project, and we're bringing our expertise there. So we don't really know. Odds are there will be a Final Fantasy 17, and whatever the team is on that is probably going to bring a lot from the learning of this game, especially the critical and commercial success of this game. So I just wanted to put that out there. I wasn't sure if Gil knew about this or not, because I literally read it last night. I was playing Alan Wake with the homies, and then all of a sudden I saw this pop up. So yeah.
Not see that.
Yeah, so we don't really know what's coming from that, but I just kind of wanted to put that news out there because it's kind of a big deal for people like me and Gil who love this game. With that, besides, I don't want to go dive too deep into the news here. I just kind of wanted to put it out there because it is post release of the game. But I really want to dive in and talk about the things that I love about this game, the things that I don't like about this game. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of this is probably going to just be complaining, but I'm not doing that because I don't like the game. I'm doing that because I really enjoy the game, and I just kind of want to be, yes, critical, but just kind of clear out all the thoughts I have on it. And also, give credit where credit's due. So I do kind of have this like list of things that this game I think could do better. How do we bring Final Fantasy 16 from an 8, an 8.5 to a 10? What does that look like? What is Final Fantasy 16 2, which we likely won't get? But how do we get Final Fantasy 16 to Final Fantasy 17? How do we bring all of these things together and make it an even better game? I'm gonna kind of let Gil kick off with things. I have a lot of thoughts here. I know Gil does too. Gil's got the notebook. He's got the little notepad. He wrote this down. So I'm gonna go ahead and probably take a little bit of notes while he's going through some of his stuff. And I will pause you anytime I have some things here too. I have one major issue with the game. Then I have some minor annoyances, and then I have like ideas really. It's just like things where when I was playing the game, I was like, this would be cool if we had this type of stuff in the game. But I'll kind of interject where it makes sense, and we'll kind of go from there. So Gil, tell us, what are some of the things in Final Fantasy 16 that could bring this game up to a 10 if they were fixed, or things like that?
Yeah. So on my notepad, I broke down pretty much just a pros and cons list.
Okay, I like it.
So yeah, I'll just start with the cons. The first two kind of go hand in hand. Not enough RPG elements, and the game cannot commit to being an action game or an RPG. So if you've played Final Fantasy 16, you see that the combat is, like Chain said earlier, more of like a Devil May Cry-ish kind of combat. You can change all your iconic abilities and stuff. You can intermingle some. And that's really cool. And that's done really well. But outside of that, the RPG elements aren't even really RPG elements, and they are just like getting a new sword, for example. You're just getting the better sword every time. With like the only thing you can customize is the appearance of the sword, which is cool, but like, I want to be able to upgrade a sword like more than once without it being power crept an hour later. I want to use the same a certain set of gear, the 3 pieces of gear, more than like I said, an hour before it gets better, another set with better stats. And that in and of itself, and just the fact that it got nominated for Best RPG at the Game Awards, is just not correct. This is an action game. with the most minuscule amount of RPG elements, which is not normal for Final Fantasy. You kind of saw it with 15, the more, and honestly 7 Remake as well, but 7 Remake and 15 had much more RPG elements than this ever did. So, and it just couldn't commit to being a full action game instead, or being a full RPG. So, those are 2 cons that I have off the rip.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here because instead of me going through all my stuff too, I'm just doubling down on what you said here. Like, love the combat of this game. It is so good, especially if you're a Devil May Cry fan. But even if you're not, it's easy to get into. Definitely has some depth to master. I was watching some videos, and if it's not clear, we're definitely in spoiler territory here. Seriously, if you don't want to be spoiled, do not watch this video from this point on. We already haven't really spoiled too much yet, but like I'm about to say something that is very clearly spoilery. So take a second. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, some of those icon abilities are sick. The way that you can combo these different things in combat, like, is so cool. I was just learning about how you can put, obviously, you can put one iconic ability on a different icon, and you can do combinations with that like work well with that icon. And I was like, dude, this is just so cool. Specifically, like with Odin, I've been learning a lot of different cool tech that you can do with that. It's so sick, and I love it. But those classic RPG elements are just gone. The like real RPG mechanics of like your weapons and armor having any sort of customization or any bearing on what's going on in the game are just completely void in this game. I would have loved to see something. This kind of goes into my like additions, but I would have loved to see something where, as you defeat an icon. Usually, you get something from them, some key item, and then you craft a weapon with it. And then it would have been sick if that weapon was a weapon that you could level up continuously, and that weapon was something that would give you a buff when you're using that icon. So let's say you get Shiva's sword, and then you use Shiva, which you don't even get till way later, which is totally fine. That's totally fine. I don't have any issues with that. But you use Shiva's sword and you get a buff to whatever, right? Either all of your attacks now have ice, or, the slow effect lasts longer, whatever it might be, something that works well. It could just be base cooldowns drop or anything, but instead none of the swords had any meaning except progression in the story and then visual identity, which we didn't get a visual, the ability to change visuals until like later, I believe a later patch. So if you played this game just straight up base, you were just getting absolutely nothing. Like, you were just like, oh, time to just go and get a new sword for leveling reasons, which just meant more side quests, which is a whole other thing. So definitely with you with the RPG elements. There isn't even a real class system. Not I'm okay with the fact that there's not a class system like there is in Final Fantasy Origin or the other Final Fantasies, where there's literal classes and you can change them and or get party members in your class. I just mean more like the party system. There's really nothing there. Like, people enter and leave your party on a whim, and there's no control over them at all. Like, complete opposite of Final Fantasy VII. And so again, I'm not saying that I need all of these things for this game to be amazing. This is like a pure action game. But to Gil's point, the fact that this came up at the Game Awards is like top RPG, like outside of the fact that Baldur's Gate 3 was nominated this year and was obviously going to win, there was just it's really not an RPG in either the Western or Eastern sense. There's just really not a lot of RPG DNA in it. So had to put my thoughts out there. I have more thoughts on how they could add some more, but we'll stop there. And I want to hear the rest of what Gil has to say, because I have a feeling we have a lot of the same thoughts here.
Yeah. So yeah, just going down more of my cons list. I said that already. Oh, The performance outside of battle is not good. It's not. um, it's the FPS just goes up and down when you're outside of battle, whereas inside of battle you're at like a consistent 60, if not more. Um, but outside of battle you're like dipping like sometimes below 30, then above 30, then below. Um, that's painful. um, just like you see how good this game can look inside of battle, and then outside of battle it's just a stark contrast and kind of takes you out a little bit. um yeah.
Yeah, just gonna obviously double down on that. Terrible.
Yeah.
I this is my number one. So this is, I said I had like some minor annoyances, some additions, major issues. My major issue with this game is the fact that its FPS is just terrible. Like its frames are just all over the place, and it impacts the visuals. I know a lot of people say this is a visually stunning game, but a lot of the time for me it doesn't matter because the frames are just dropping so intensely. If you play the game, if you can play the game at 30 FPS, that is actually the better way to play in terms of consistency. But I can't play, and I'm not trying to be like one of those people that's like, oh, I'm different. I can't play 30 FPS. My eyes just can't adjust. But like, it's not comfortable for me. It's not fun. It's not as fun. Like, I like playing in 60, 120, 160 hertz. I have a computer that I play a ton of games on 160, and I love it. But I really can't, on the PlayStation, you can get up to 120. And in this game, you're only getting up to 60, again, to Gil's point, like almost rock solid 60 when you're in combat. The second combat ends, it drops down to 40, 30, lower, sometimes literally lower, like 20. It gets real bad sometimes. And it's also inconsistent where sometimes you're outside and it's not 60, but it's pretty good. But in the distance, you see like birds moving at like 15 frames per second. And you're like, what is happening, bro? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? And so I don't know. I almost was like, put the visuals down to like low on PC, like what it would look like on a PC, and just give me 60 FPS throughout the entire game, and I'd probably be happier. But performance, major issue, and it affects the amazing visuals. I know Gil can't see it, but right now I've got this state of play YouTube video that's been playing for a while. You can see the visuals here are stunning, and in boss battles like these, it's pretty amazing. Right now, the Titan boss battle is playing, Gil, and it's that is one of the best boss battles in the game. I mean, it is sick. That music is cranking,
Yeah.
but it's crazy. I mean, like, it's crazy because right after this, you're gonna go into like 15 frames per second, and it's gonna be super awkward. So yeah, performance, major issue. Those are actually my two major issues: FPS and RPG. So I think it says something that those are Gil's two first issues as well, because those are pretty major.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Yeah. So I actually only have two more cons on my list.
Cool.
Now these are kind of nitpicks rather than cons, maybe.
Sure.
But I've never actually talked about this with you, so this is new information to you. In my opinion, I think we did not get long enough as younger Clive and got too long as older Clive.
Huh. Okay. Tell me more about that. Like, give me some more details
So, like,
on what you mean by that.
I mean, we just I wanted to learn more about Joshua in like the younger section of the game, because the time we spend as like teenage Clive is like what, 1 to 2 hours, and then we're immediately into like late 20s and then early 30s.
Yeah, it's short.
Um, I just wish we kind of got more there before Joshua went batshit. Just learning more about Rosaria and about Joshua, about
Yeah.
how he even inherited the Phoenix in the first place, um, how Clive got his powers of the Phoenix from Joshua before he turned into Ifrit, um, about that, about their crazy mom.
Oh
um,
yeah.
I just kind of wish we got more there.
Yeah.
And then on the inverse of that, I think because of that, we got too long as 30s Clive. Because you pretty much, you're in 20s Clive, you beat Titan, or not even. You you get Ramu's powers,
Yeah. It's just ramen,
and
I
then
think.
bang, you're into early 30s. Like,
Yeah.
whoa. um, which is fine. I still loved it. Um, but I feel like it could have been more evenly strewn. Um, but I think that's just a nitpick on my end.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually that's a good point. I mean, I think for me, I mean, I'm 30. So I think for me, I love playing 30-year-old Clive. I was just talking to uh um my best friend, my roommate Dave, which his online name is Phoenix, which is hilarious because I always say Phoenix, but there's a character in this game named Phoenix, so gotta be careful there. But I was talking to Dave, and we were just saying, I'm having a hard time beating Spider-Man Miles Morales, and I am going somewhere with this. So hold on. But I'm the reason I'm having a hard time playing Miles Morales is the same reason I have a hard time watching anime that is constantly about like high school kids. Like I'm 30 years
Mm.
old. At some point it just gets exhausting. You're just like, I get it. I get it. I've been through it. I've been through the high school problems. I've been through the young people problems. I've been there. I get that. I get it. But like, it's nice to sometimes just play as an adult and watch adults do adult things. And so I was okay with the young segment, which is funny because literally it's playing right now on the YouTube video. Is The young segment? I think I agree with you in the sense that at the end, when the credits roll, all of a sudden we see like like we see the fact that how Joshua gave Clive his powers and
Mm-hmm.
some more family dynamics. And yeah, it would have been nice to see his dad like instead of twice. Like, we saw his dad
Right.
twice. Like, yeah, it would have been cooler. I think a little bit of long. It is definitely just a straight up prologue. Not prologue. It's just a
Yeah.
straight up like, oh yeah, prologue. It's just a straight up beginning,
Oh,
right? And I think like I think it's okay that that's the case. But yeah, it would have been nice
yeah.
if they gave us a little bit more of a taste of like, hey, this is the let's really slow it down for you for a second, all right? You're about to play Game of Thrones Final Fantasy. It's gonna get real confusing. You are in Rosaria. This is your
Mm.
daddy. He runs Rosaria. This is your mommy. She's crazy. She's from this place. Like, yeah, it would have been nice if they did a little bit more hand holding in the beginning. I can feel you on that. I
Yeah.
can feel you on that. I think I definitely am much more on the I like the fact that we're in 30-year-old Clive more than either Clive. I don't, but
Mhm.
honestly, I forgot about 20s Clive. I only thought of 20s Clive when I got into New Game Plus, because that's where New Game Plus starts, is in
Yep.
20s Clive. So it's very obvious that young Clive is only in is only just kind of this like intro prologue thing. But I'm with you now that you've mentioned it. I'm like, it would have been nice even for New Game Plus to have more significance there. Obviously, you couldn't have done iconic things there. Like
Right.
iconic as literally like icon stuff there, but like even just mastering some more of the basics would have been like kind of fun, kind of nice. So I'm with you. Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah. Um, that's it for my cons list. Um, but in terms of what could make this game 10 out of 10
Yeah,
for me,
yeah.
um, just kind of backtracking on what I said, having consistent performance above 30
Mm-hmm.
FPS
Yep, yep, yep,
the
yep.
whole time, um, and then either committing to being an RPG or an action game, not trying to do a mix of both. And that, I mean, that's really it.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think that makes total sense. I'm with you so much on those first 2 points of the performance and the RPG elements. Literally, if the RPG elements either, I think you could go one of two ways. Is either, I think the issue is that they failed doing both. I think they could do both,
Yeah.
but I think they just didn't. Like it would have been nice to see them just go straight down the action route, which would probably mean, just a tighter game with an emphasis more on the abilities and things like that. Or I don't think they could have gone just a straight up RPG route. So if this is what we get from it, fine. But it would have been cool. Like I hope in the DLC somewhere they add some more RPG elements or something. But the performance, even if just the performance was better, I think we'd be looking at like a 9. Yeah. Like I think I'd get over a lot of this stuff. I think I'd be like, well, the game's just so amazing visually and runs great that like I'm not afraid to recommend it to my friends because they're like, why does the game look jank? Whereas like, I think the RPG elements, I honestly, I could probably still recommend this game, and I don't think people are going to be mad. There are going to be a lot of people who aren't mad about the RPG elements. But for Gil and I, it would be great to have some more of that.
Yeah.
So we covered my major issues. So I have some minor annoyances and then some additions, and I want to talk to you mostly about the additions because I just kind of wonder what you think about some of these things. So I'm going to try and quickly go over the minor annoyances, and some of these you might have heard, some of them you might not have. So starting off with, I don't know if this is probably my number one minor annoyance. Did you do any of the cryptoliths? Or not cryptoliths. Oh my God, that's Destiny. The chronoliths?
No.
So this is just terrible. I'm sorry. Creative Business Unit 3 and Square Enix. This was really weird game design for me. I'm playing the game, and randomly at some point in the game, which I believe is like pretty much around when you're able to beat the game, all of the chronoliths activate, and they never said anything. And if I'm wrong about that, it means that it was that easy to skip because I had no idea the chronoliths were available until literally I Googled it after I beat the game and noticed there were question marks on my Arietti stone or whatever it's called. I don't like that. I really dislike that. To me, the chronoliths felt like they should have come up like much earlier. Like the second you beat, so you haven't done any of them, right?
No.
Yeah, that's how skippable they are. They're so so many people don't know about these, and literally they are your classic. Hey, you got an icon, master its abilities. That is at the end of the game. Like I already chose which icons I'm going to use. What? There are so many times where Gil and I have just been like talking about, well, it's cool if you combo Ramu with Odin and Shiva because you can do this, and this, but I kind of hate this ability. It's not really that good, and I don't really think about it. Like, we've done that multiple times, but they kind of force you into playing these different icons to teach you and have more time with those abilities. We would be much better at the game. I think, we're pretty good at the game generally, I'm assuming. But I just mean like, we would have more fun with all the abilities if these chronolith things had been introduced the second you got your first icon. And it doesn't seem like there's any good story reason for why they didn't get introduced. And if so, I don't know, change the way the story is written to let the chronoliths come in earlier. I actually really enjoy the chronoliths. I've done 2 of them so far. I did the Phoenix one and I did the Ramu one, and I really enjoyed them. It's 3 stages. 2 of them are against just groups of ads, and then the final one is a boss. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend you go back and do them. If you're about to do the DLC, I think that's kind of how I've been doing it, is almost as a refresher for the DLC, which I actually do like in that sense. But they will feel rudimentary if you're already good at the game, because it's just super awkward for the game to be like, hey, you almost beat the game, you're almost done, you already know what you're doing. Well, let's go back to basics real quick. So that's my first and probably highest minor annoyance. I really wish those were different. And Gil, I'd love to see what you think about the Chronoliths. The first one, the Phoenix one, is north of Martha's Rest. So if you go to Martha's Rest, you go north. That's the Phoenix one, and that's probably the first one you'll want to do. And then odds are you'll probably be like, yeah, I don't need to do this. But you do get items from it. You do get items, which is a whole other thing that I'm sure I'll go over at some point. That's the Chronoliths. My second one is the pacing of side quests that are the pacing of side quests are just weird sometimes. Yeah, I'm okay with going back and forth, in between things, but sometimes it just feels like I love the story of this game, but when I love the story of a game and I find myself skipping, constantly pressing the skip button or move forward button, it becomes a problem. So I don't want to go too deep into that. I have a couple other things that I go through here that mention those, but the pacing of the side quests can get pretty rough, and that was definitely a minor annoyance for me. I went through them all, beat them all, easily 100% of the game when it comes to all the questing and stuff like that. But Gil knows, every time he was like, hey, did you beat the game yet? And I'm like, still going through the side quests at the end. And it was frustrating. Yeah, that was rough. Okay, number 3 is and I gotta know what you think about this. Getting a seal after every NPC to move the story forward. So, you meet a major NPC, whether it be the Dame or whether it be Martha, and they give you a seal and they're like, hey, wear this seal. Then you'll be able to go past the guards, or you'll be able to talk to these people.
Oh, mm-hmm.
What? I'm sorry. It was just after the 3rd or 4th one, I was like, okay, all right, this is a little silly, guys. Is Clive really walking around with Pokemon gym badges in his jacket? What's happening here? Is he just collecting all of these seals? It felt really silly and disconnected after the 9th time. You know what I mean? Odds are, from your reaction, you forgot about these seals. Thus, the importance of them is ridiculously non-important. Is this, am I doing too much, or is this what do you think about this?
I mean, I literally forgot about them, so I agree.
I hated it.
Yeah, I was like, why do I need this to talk to people?
Yeah, I think in some ways the story is you wouldn't be able to talk to these people otherwise, and they're like, oh, you know the Dame, and this is the reason why, and that's fair, but it just felt like a bit of a crutch, a bit of a storytelling crutch, that every single major NPC gave you a seal, and it was just all right, it's fine. For me, I just wanted some more dynamic storytelling. And a reminder, this is minor annoyances that would just be cool to see something different. Did this ruin the game for me? No. Could all of these still be in the game and get a 10 out of 10? Yes. These are just things that I think would be awesome to see changed or removed, or when they go into a Final Fantasy XVII. I don't think we're going to get a 16 too. It would have been really cool to see them not do the same thing with the seals, and instead find other reasons for us to move forward with characters and the story without having to need a seal every time. Another thing for me was there was a lot of fading into black. Now, this is definitely a nitpick, but as I was just drudging through the side quest, the amount of times I faded into black and then back into the engine or core gameplay, it was getting like kind of exhausting. Like it was just like it doesn't look great. The amount of times you're like walking and it fades to black for you to walk out into somewhere else and it fades, back into existence. It happened a lot. This is it's a small nitpick, but the reason I mention it is because it reminded me of how much I wanted this game to be the like Japanese version of The Witcher. Is that The Witcher, when you get into a fight, the enemies are already out just like they are in Final Fantasy 16, but it doesn't like cut at any point. Like you're just playing the game, you're in the world. Even another example is like God of War. God of War doesn't like fade into black, fade back out. Like, it's a consistent camera angle. And I think something like that, or not camera angle, but it's a consistent camera. And the amount of times that we're fading in, fading out was just a lot. And at some point, especially during side quests, I just kind of got over it. And I was like, all right, can we get through this now? Like, I just kind of want to, zoom through these things. Again, I don't really have an answer for this, but it would just be a nice thing to not see in Final Fantasy 17 or whatever comes next. This one, Gil knows, mount music. I hate it every time I bring out Ambrosia and plays, and especially during really intense parts of the story where like I will never forget when Ultima casts that spell that makes everything gray and the sky closes in and the music changes and everything's all like, oh, what's going on? Like everything's crazy right now. And then I'd get on my bird and I'm just like, what is happening, bro? Or like I just had a tense moment with Jill and I'm like, oh man, like this is I'm like, bro, I can't. So could not stand that. And I don't know, it was too much, especially because there's no sprint button, but that's a different conversation. I'll get to that later. Mount music, frustrating. Back to the side quest. I didn't realize I had two things for this, but one of the solutions I think that they could have done for the side quest is being the distinct about which side quests were major or character side quests. Which they do in Ghost of Tsushima. I mentioned this to Gil earlier, but I think Ghost of Tsushima does a great job of splitting up. Hey, these are like random side quests that don't really need much at all. Like you get a piece of paper and the paper tells you to go do this thing. There are a lot of times where you like meet an NPC that isn't important at all that I think could have been completely like it could have just been a courier or a paper or just starting the quest to like get it done because it's a minor quest. But then there are like major side quests that have to do with some of the major characters, like the Dame or I can't think of his name. The one from the deserty place. Do you remember his name?
I don't remember his name.
From Dalmekia. Yeah, like I like those quests. I actually think they're very good. Like, and I like the characters. They're awesome. But I don't know if that's the quest I'm doing or if I'm doing a really minor quest. And sometimes I don't care about the minor quest. So I think that would have been nice to have a distinction and actually change the way those quests are being given to us and being run. Because the minor ones, there's the quest. I don't think it's in Dalmekia. No, it's in the place where they have the gates up and everyone wants to get through. Literally, there is a quest of finding wine for a guy because he wants to celebrate with the rest of like these other important guys in the town, and it is a longer quest that I really wish I never did. I mean, it's fine that I did it, but it just could have been faster, and there really it was just too minor for me to have cared about it, and I could have waited for later or whatnot. So that would have been a nice thing to see. All right, last two minor annoyances. I wish skill canceling / animation canceling wasn't a skill. There is a skill that you get from Odin, which is awesome. I think it's called Slip. But it is a literal skill comparatively to a remapping of dodge or or like replacing precision dodge or just allowing for animation canceling. This is a personal preference. I know a lot of people like the slip ability, but for me, I am used to other games that allow you to skill cancel or animation cancel or allow you to dodge out of things, or even change the because it kind of does two things. Slip gives you what a lot of people call witch time, coming from Bayonetta, where things slow down. But also it allows you to animation cancel. And I think putting both of those things into a skill feels punishing almost, because I want to use more skills. And this is the last minor annoyance, which is I just wish I had more skills available to me at one time. It would have been nice for when I press the modifier button to show my skills, the entirety of my face buttons were skills. I have no problem with being able to dash, jump, attack, magic attack, and then stop what I'm doing and quickly press R2 to use any of my 4 abilities comparatively to 2. This is, again, probably a little bit more of a preference thing, but I mean, it just would have been more fun for me to be able to use more of them. In the end, you get to use 6 abilities, and you have way more at your disposal. And it just would have been cool to maybe be able to use, I don't know, 3 times 4, 12 abilities. That would have been pretty cool, if I did my math right. So, but it is what it is. Those are my minor annoyances. Yeah, I just, there are some things that were like, I would go, really? And then I would keep playing the game. They're not huge deals. Any of these speak to you in particular, Gil? Or I know we're all on the same page for a lot of these things, but anything that I mentioned that you're like, oh yeah, for sure, that would have been cool if that changed.
Well, outside of map music, I think just like you said, having more skills, I think is the biggest thing that speaks to me. Just having more is not really a bad thing most of the time. So.
Yep. Yeah, I'm with you there. Even like I was surprised that the what would usually be the circle button was like not remapped, but like couldn't be used as a slot, because like, yeah, I'm not gonna like focus on using my iconic ability over one of its like major abilities, right? Like that just seems weird. Like Garuda's is like using her like claw ability. Will just let me use that space to get a different ability. Maybe this was a balancing thing, and that's totally fine. But it didn't stop me from wanting it, like the entire game. So this is the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about is additions. Some of these most of them are attached to some of the things that we talked about earlier, from the annoyances or the major issues. And these I actually just want to like talk about, like just want to hear your thoughts on what we could possibly see here. Again, not necessarily it could be in a Final Fantasy 17, or it could be, it just, yeah, I mean, there's no 16.2 coming. I don't think we're going to get a 16.2. I also don't think we need one. Again, we're in spoiler territory here. If you weren't listening to me, seriously, I'm about to spoil the ending of the game. So again, I'm just going to do a nice quick 3, 2, 1. I mean, he's dead. So I don't think we're going to get a 16.2. I don't think we need a 16.2. The DLC takes place before the end of the game. And it seems like the next DLC is also going to take place before the end of the game. And so, I don't think we're going to get this kind of stuff, but I just wanted to put this stuff out here. Feel free to disagree with me too. Some of this stuff is very personal. Where you might just be like, no, I don't want that. That's terrible. I think you'll agree with the first one though. Add a sprint button. Yep. I think there's 2 ways to do this. Either right click or, R3, or hold dodge out of combat. Both of these things have been seen in games before. Literally in Genshin Impact, you can hold the dodge button and you just run. Or you can do in most games, you just press R3 and you start running. Or L3 and you just start running. The addition of a sprint would be nice. I understand the concern likely around the use of the mount, but I already have issues with the mount. I think if the mount system, which we only have, it's just Chocobo, it's just Ambrosia. If like just the mount was faster to get on, like much more maybe Witcher, where like the horse roach just shows up and you just jump on him, or I mean, there's a lot of other games that have mounts, obviously. Then maybe we'd be having a different conversation. But because getting the mount takes the time that it does, or I might be inside of a town, or I might just be trying to get from a small area to another small area, and like the distance is short, a sprint would be very welcome. I'm just gonna assume you agree with me on that one, Gil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was rough. And I believe this comes from a general. I think this is normal in Devil May Cry games, but I didn't like it. Number 2 is more control options. I'm going to gloss over that. I just would have been nice to have some more control options, especially because you can't customize it. I know some people will say, well, you can do that on PlayStation, but it's still very confusing to do that. I just play a lot of Punishing Gray Raven, which is a different game, and attack is with R1 and dodge is with L1. And I really like that system, and it just would have been nice to be able to emulate that, but you can't. It's just not an option. And so it would have just been nice to have some more options, especially coming from other popular games that are out there. So, but glossing over that one, I would have liked to see, and here's probably the first big, okay, here's an addition that I think would have been nice for the RPG mechanics of the game. Weapon and armor classifications. Your classic light, medium, heavy armor and weapons. These weapons and armor could affect your movement speed, your cooldowns, your attack speed. I think just classification overall, I think would have been cool. I'm not saying we need to be like, okay, now my Clive is a giant, Dark Knight that has, that moves at half the speed, and oh well, my Clive is a rogue, and I'm not saying we need a huge class system, but we do have a weapon slot that we could have had different weapons that could have given us different combos, or at least made us move a little bit different. And then we also had accessories. If you had added in an armor slot to just said, hey, okay, now if you wear a light vest or a heavy vest, this also could have replaced some of the accessories that gave us like cooldowns and such, and they could have been put into a different category as well. I like to say that the fact that you said absolutely, that means I'm on a good track here. Tell me more about that. Like, what are your thoughts? How do you think that would play out? Would you like to see that, obviously, if we had a Final Fantasy 16 2 or 17? What are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. I mean, I love like class-based gameplay. Just having like one that increases your movement speed, makes you super fast, one that makes you kind of like the heavyweight tank type. You have this big sword, you can't move.
right
but do a lot of damage.
That
would be awesome.
I think even the way I was thinking of it is more of like, maybe less Souls-like and more God of War. Like, God of War is just a single player experience that is very curated, but he has multiple weapons. And I think maybe literally just 3, right, would have been perfectly fine to say, like, he does carry a second weapon, but if he had a big sword, a medium sword, and his small sword, being able to choose which one you use, that would just slightly augment your gameplay. It's just adding another layer. To be clear, these are additions I'd like to see in the game, not things that I think needed to be in the game already. I mean, the sprint definitely would have been nice to have, but the addition of these, like, classifications of armor and weapons, I think would have been cool to see as well. In addition to that, here's the next big one. It would have been cool to see each icon have an effect on basic abilities. When I say basic abilities, I'm going to name them all here. The magic attack, which is your triangle ability, your limit break, your follow-up attack, which is once you dodge or precision dodge, your lunge, which is when I believe you press X and square at the same time, I think, and then your down thrust, which is same thing but in the air. All of those are always connected to what we thought was the Phoenix, or what probably is the Phoenix still, but it's always fire. I think that's fine, actually, in the beginning of the game. I think it's fine when Clive is in his 20s. I think it's fine when Clive is in his 30s. But if there was a mastery part of the game where, for example, I don't know, those chronoliths, you complete a chronolith and then it changes the icon, or the icon allows you to change your basic movements, or maybe even when you have the weapon that is associated with that icon, it changes the magic attack. No, and to be clear, the magic attack does change, but it doesn't do anything. There's no actual difference. And so having a limit break where instead of always calling upon, your of course, again, I'm okay that we're in spoiler territory here, getting engulfed in flames. It would have been cool if you can be like, your limit break is not summoning your icon. So sure, maybe he can't exactly summon Ramu, but, getting to, look like, Sid, by getting an all, purple would have been really, really cool. So
Yeah.
I think that is something I would love to see if they ever did a 17 or 16 to spiritual successor to this. We would see something where the icons actually change more, especially things like the lunge attack as well. I just think that kind of stuff would have been cool. And then last thing on that, before I get your thoughts on that, Gil, is icons could also buff your weapons and your abilities as well, like the magic attack. Really, the magic attack is what I was thinking here. For example, if you're using if you're using Ramu, was just playing with Ramu a lot recently, so being able to move faster because you use a certain ability or because you got a certain combo off, because that's what the icon is. The icon is thunder, it's lightning, right? It's electricity.
Mm-hmm.
I think giving more of, like, these icons are so awesome, giving more of the fantasy of those would have been really cool. So I'll stop there. What are your thoughts on having these icons be a little bit more present in the total of the gameplay?
I mean, I absolutely agree. Like you said, like becoming, the limit breaks, different colors, different attacks, would just be a nice touch. I mean, that's really the part that resonated with me the most. I mean, I think changing the effect of just the standard magic attack is also a good idea.
Yeah.
Um, Instead of just having the PK fire all the time.
Every time. PK Lightning. Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of for folks that have played Infamous Second Son, Delsin, main character, he can swap different abilities. In the beginning, Delsin has smoke abilities, and so he's always his normal shooting ability, I believe is R2, might have been R1 back in the day, but I believe it's R2, would just be throwing smoke at like ashy rock smoke at people. But then as time went on, every time he would shift abilities, he would shoot something new, but it didn't do anything different. It was just a visual effect. And I think that it just doesn't feel as impactful as it could be. Even if there was just a combo system where you hit somebody 5 times and like in Destiny, they burn and then they ignite, or they scorch and then they ignite. You kill an enemy with the electric one, the Ramus, and then they like burst into electricity and hit enemies around them. Shiva, you hit them 5 times and they start to slow. Like, these are things that we see in other games that would have been cool to see in FF16. All right, I've got 2 more major or general additions, and then I have 2 modes for you. I've got 2 modes for you. But the next one is a more fleshed out companion system, or party system. There really is no party system in this. You can go into the menu and you can look at your party. You can literally look, oh, who's in my party? Oh, I've got Sid in my party and I've got Torgal in my party. But you can't do anything. Torgal, they have his whole stat sheet up. Can't do anything. I think more would have been better. And there's a lot of ways that you could do that. It could be closer to Final Fantasy VII remake, right? It could be closer to Fire Emblem, where there, or it could be closer to Persona, where the companion system isn't always just like me being in control of them, but me being able to spend time with them, talk with them, build relationships with them. I would love to just like spend time with Joshua when I'm able to, like a quest that is specific to him that changes him over time. Or obviously there's some major changes that happen with Jill, but being able to spend time with her and change her, the way that she interacts with me, would have been pretty cool. I think the general AI for the companions are good. Like I don't have a problem with it. But feeling like I'm part of their development as well, I think makes a pretty big difference. You're always Cloud in Final Fantasy, but 7, but obviously you can definitely just main a different character. I'm not asking for that. I don't think I necessarily want that, but just a little bit more involvement with your party members would have been pretty cool, I think. And then the last way, small thing, is an in-game way to track the bounties. The hunt board is cool. I don't know the percentage of people that use the hunt board and didn't just Google where the enemies are. Did you look them up, Gil, or did you actually go and try and find them?
Oh, I looked them up.
Yeah, it just feels like one of those things where, like, even if there was a side quest where you could have worked with the Moogle to like get an upgrade that let you track them in game, or there was just an option that let you track them in game, I think both of those would have been good. I don't want to take it away from people who like the hunt, but I think a lot of us don't. So I think it's a cool idea in theory, but I think if there is a way for us to circumvent that for the ones that want to, that would be pretty cool. Again, I can just imagine this thing with the Moogle, and he's like, "Hey, go get me these things, and I can help you track these monsters if you want." And I'd be like, "Okay, yeah." I could either not do it because I don't care and I like to hunt, or I could do it and I can. The options there, and so I do like that. So those are my last two additions there. I don't want people to think I'm complaining when I'm at the additions. For the additions, it's more of this is what I'd like to see in the future. Whereas my minor annoyances, okay, I digress. We can move on. But these are my last two things, Gil. I've got two other additions, but they're modes, full on modes. And I'd like to know what you think about these. And then once we're done here, our hour-long video is complete. So mode number 1 would be other playable characters in the Ariete Stone. And the way that I think about this is something similar to like Ari's like mercenaries mode, where you can go into the chronoliths, you can go into maybe the boss battles, and you can just play as literally any of the other characters, which would basically be like a minor tweak to how our main character plays now. So like I just imagine being able to play as Sid, who uses 2 swords, right? Which would change up the gameplay. And this would be amazing as a DLC. This would be amazing as a Final Fantasy XVII actually does allow us to play as different characters in a similar system here. This is Devil May Cry 5. This is what made Devil May Cry so 5 specifically dynamic comparatively to other ones, where you can play as multiple characters. Yeah, any thoughts there? When I say mercenaries, I don't necessarily mean the mercenaries mode. I just mean generally how obviously you play as Leon the entire game. But then at the end of the game, they're like, well, you can play as these other characters too. So yeah, any thoughts there?
I think that's a cool idea for sure. I would have to see how it is able to, or how the game would be able to, like, how the devs would be able to make like Jill and like Torgal.
I didn't even think about Torgal, but yeah, let's play as Torgal too. Why not?
Or whoever else. Joshua.
Bro, I'm thinking of
Um,
I'm thinking Titan. I'm thinking
oh,
I'm thinking all. I mean, basically, allow us to jump in as the icons, or not the icons, but each of the holders, right? Each dominant.
dominance.
Yeah, to be able, because like, okay, let's say we don't get to do our own limit breaks, right? We don't get to, Clive doesn't get the limit break of the other characters, but to be able to limit break as Titan, to be able to just like have his entire kit, and play the way he would. So he doesn't use a weapon. So his fist would just be the weapon. And I know that's significant development time. I'm not saying that we deserve this. I'm just saying that I want it. I play a lot of games with a lot of different characters. I play gacha games, right? I play Punishing Gray Raven, and so Punishing Gray Raven, or a game that I'm very excited for, that's coming out soon, or I don't know. I can't remember. I think it's February. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. There's just tons of characters, and I think it would have been. It's a lot of replayability to say. It's one thing to ask me to just replay the game in arcade mode. I don't really want to do that. But if they're like, hey, do some of this extra content, which is basically replaying content, but now you're going to do it as Titan. Now you're going to do it as Odin. Now you're going to do it as Dion. Right? Like, imagine being able to play a dragoon with a lance in this game. I'm not saying it would be easy, but it would be cool. If you could pick one character, which one would it be? DLC drops and they're like, you can play as
Dion.
Bro. Would that not be lit? That'd
be pretty sick.
Like, he just does this jump in the air, comes down, like, and playing with a pole arm, playing with a lance is completely different from the way that this already plays. Yeah, you'd still have all the like normal stuff, right? You'd have precision dodge, you'd have parry, but the way he plays is going to be different, and I just think that's going to be really cool. I mean, again, I don't think we're going to get that, but I could see us getting something like that in a Final Fantasy 17. It's already in 7. It's already in 7. We already play as different characters in 7. So it would just be amazing to see. Last one, final mode, final idea here. I know you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 5 and you haven't played Fallout 4. But hopefully you might be able to glean something from this. And there might even be a game that you have played that has something similar. The Metal Gear Solid 5 FOBs, which is forward operating base, or Fallout 4's settlement system. I would love to see a mode where the Tri-Unity Accord, this is kind of a deep cut here, the Tri-Unity Accord, which is Clive's uncle. Oh my God, I can't think of his name. The guy who freed all the bearers and then basically led them all to their death because of a grudge. I can't think of his name right now. And then your uncle's like friend who like has a big military connection. Those three created the Tri-Unity Accord at the end of the game. I would love to see them or just more outlaw hideouts. And the idea is that there is a game mode where, or it doesn't have to necessarily be a game mode, it could be an addition, I guess, where there are other spots on the map that appear where you're creating bases that allow you to level them up, that allow for enemies to come attack them, and it gives you a rich, it makes the world alive, basically. It's kind of similar also maybe to Control's, like how in Control you can go to an area and enemies come back, and because they come back, they actually ask you to clear it out and you get rewards for it. So to simplify it, I would say imagine you're playing Final Fantasy 16 and all of a sudden Gav is like, we need to open up a new base, Clive. We need to open up a new base, Clive. We're going to make one in Delmechia. And so you go to Delmechia, and now you open up a new base, which means you have to clear out the bandits there. So there's a whole quest line. You clear out the bandits there. And then you can start to invest. So at the end of the game, there's a lot of money. You can like put money into that base, and that base basically gives you, other types of currencies or different things, but the world starts to change because of it. And that's really the major thing, is that the world reacts to the fact that a new base is there. The reason that I like these is because like the settlement system in Fallout 4, I really love. I'm not asking for that level of customization where you can go in and change the way it looks and stuff. I mean, that would be cool, but something that says like I've been here and I've changed things, and we're here to stay. Whether that's the Tri-Unity Accord or the Outlaws having more hideouts. I think it increases the longevity of the story and gives you a little bit more like input into the game. This is probably my most like moonshot idea. I mean, I don't know how like popular that idea would be comparatively to like playing as other characters. But I think it's an easy way to add more content into the game. Did what I say make sense to you? I know you haven't played a lot of those games that I've mentioned. Okay, cool. Any thoughts?
I mean, I agree. Sounds like a cool idea. Definitely would upgrade the longevity of the story, like you said. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think like we get a lot of random quests, but if there was just a quest line that was like your uncle always being like, "Oh, my boy, I need you to like we're opening up we're starting a new barricade or something, or like we're building a new castle or whatever, or fort in Dhelmekia, like we need your assistance to like help us with this thing," and you do it, and then all of a sudden that presence is there, and that's like a new base for you, like, and you can go there for particular things. There's not too much in the game that I think would benefit from it. Like there's not like if there were more RPG mechanics, I think it would be more beneficial. But overall, I think it would be kind of a cool mode. We talked about a lot today. It's a long video. I had a feeling it was going to be long. But I kind of just wanted to make this video to kind of cement the fact that even though I have a lot of complaints, and this is a game that Gil and I both played that we really loved, and I just wanted to give us some time to like talk about it, air our grievances with the game, so that way we can just stop and enjoy the game more, because they're in my head a lot and we talk about them a lot. But I was like, okay, let's put this on paper or on video. See if other folks have similar thoughts. I know there's a lot of complaining, but it's because I love this game. With that, we've got a great outro here in the video right now. So I think it's a good time for us to stop. Thank you, everybody, for watching the video. If you watched it up till this point, you're a champion, let me tell you, because this is a long video. If you've played the game, let us know in the description down below. We'll be taking a look, in the comments. We'll be taking a look at the comments for sure. If anyone does get this far, we love this game. Excited to play the DLC and the next DLC. It's going to be fun, and I'm excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as well. And best believe we're going to do some videos on that too. Gil, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. We'll see you guys online. And of course, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Oh, mommy. That guy's not very good.